In the beginning of this week, we received 5 new Incarnon weapons, and holy crap, my wonderful Tenno. These weapons are bloody gorgeous. This is by far the best new batch of Incarnons that we have received. I mean, for the first time in forever, me, have fallen in love with a finisher synergy. Yep, that is correct. Even after the bug fix for the Obex Incarnon, I still found an overpowered synergy to show you guys. These weapons are insane, and I have so many builds to walk you through to destroy the entire game. So let's get into it. Starting off with number 1, the Obex Incarnon. I'm going to get the long one out of the way because there is so much to talk about here. The Obex Incarnon is a finisher-based Incarnon that is, let's just say, very interesting. And there are many ways to go about building this and doing this. So I'm going to summarize everything to the best of my ability since we have 4 other weapons to talk about. And stick with me. I'll try and keep the most important information in, and then I will explain everything later. The Prisoner Obex Incarnon will give you plus 100% melee damage, plus 20% sprint speed, plus 20% particle velocity, which is great. When you reach 6 times combo, you can then activate it with a heavy attack. However, when you perform a finisher attack in the Incarnon form, you will deal a massive amount of damage in a 12-meter radius with no fall off. That's pretty crazy, right? We'll get into that in a moment. First, we're going to have to go over the evolutions. So starting off with evolution number 2, I'm going to say go for armored finisher. There's a reason for this. For the specific synergy, we're going to be going for armored finisher, and it is very powerful. You increase your base damage by 10, and with armor over 450, you gain plus 80% finisher damage. This was previously 8,000%, but with the hotfix yesterday, this has been brought back down to the intended 80%. Balanced stagger is good if you're not going to go for this very specific niche synergy that I'm about to show you guys today, and you just want to use this with any warframe that you see fit. Then I would recommend that you go for balanced stagger. This allows you to gain a 20% chance to stun enemies on hit with a neutral attack combo, opening them up to finisher attacks. Moving on to evolution number 3, you can decide between Rapid Conclusion or Oricon Reach. I'm going to go for Rapid Conclusion or switch to Oricon Reach for this synergy, but I'm giving Rapid Conclusion a try because particle velocity will help us with what I'm about to showcase to you guys. Number 4, the last one, you can choose between Subtle Force, which is a balance between crit chance and status chance, Absolute Dominion, which is either pure status chance, or Critical Coefficient for extra critical damage that is doubled in the Incarnon form. I've gone for Subtle Force, and I'm going to stick with that because it's working for me, but you're more than welcome to change it up. Okay, what is this whole finisher synergy that I am so excited to talk about today? Very quickly, for those of you that have no idea what finishers are, there are 4 types. There is a neutral front, back, and universal finisher attack that is happens when certain conditions are met, whether you stun them using certain warframe abilities, using other mods or anything like that. You also have ground finishes, which when you knock an enemy down on the floor, you can walk up to them, press X, and perform a ground finisher. You also have stealth modifiers or stealth finisher attacks that also have increased damage, and so on. Then we have the last one, which is a mercy kill. Now this is technically not a finisher attack, but it is. It's like a Parazon finisher attack, which ties into what we're going to be talking about now, which I think it's a bug. I am not too sure, but it is crazy. When an enemy is open to a finisher, you will see an icon above their heads pop up. It's very small, but you'll notice it. If you have a mercy kill, it will be a red Parazon icon, which is also very important to understand. But before we go into the build, there is a very disgusting synergy with this weapon and another weapon that I need to discuss because it is absolutely insane. Fine, once again, I'm going to be talking about the Coda Base Assist. The Coda Base Assist has an alt fire that I'm sure many of you already know. It sends out mites, it will increase the threshold that allows you to then teleport to the enemy and perform a mercy kill. But here is the thing. When you have the Obex and you are in the Incarnon form and you take out your Coda Base Assist, you alt fire an enemy that is eligible for a mercy kill, which is usually your tougher targets like your corrupted heavy gunners, your Eximus units, etc. And you perform a mercy kill by walking up to the enemy and then pressing X for mercy. You will then still proc the explosion from the Incarnon form from the Obex, dealing millions of damage. which allows you to then proc your Parazon mods, which I have right here: Hit and Run, Extra Particle Velocity, Swift Mercy for faster mercy kills, and Blood for ammo. You can switch it out to the others if you want, but this is what I generally use, which is great. That is incredibly powerful. So it's just another layer or another mercy type kill thing to add onto the synergy. Now, let's talk about the build for the weapon quickly. I want to make this very, very clear before I keep or continue discussing. This is a very specific niche synergy. You are more than welcome to use the Prisma Obex by itself in the terms of afflictions, influence, or anything like that you want, and use it by itself and not focus on the finisher attacks. By all means, go for that. But for today's video, and I hope you guys understand because I'm trying to be quick with this, I want to focus on one specific synergy, and I am excited to talk about this. So here is the build right here. We use Brutal Tide for the sparring stance. We then go for Galvanized Steel, Primed Fury, Primed Reach, Primed Pressure Point, and Condition Overload. Now, you may be a little bit confused, and the reason for this is because finisher attacks scale off of your mods, etc., and doesn't really scale off of status chance or status damage, because initially I had Galvanized Elementalist on. Not really going to matter too much here. We do, however, have Melee Vortex on and Magnetic Rush for the 1 or 2 times that you can proc it with the finisher attack. Otherwise, you can put it on your companion weapon to allow you to keep proccing Melee Vortex. It just helps with this a little. We have Finishing Touch for increased finisher damage, and then remember, we also have the second evolution with extra 80% finisher damage if your Warframe's armor is above 450. Condition Overload with, of course, a Primer Companion, and Organ Shatter for extra critical damage, because that also scales your finisher attacks damage. Okay, while I was making this video, I realized that I actually wanted to change the setup, but the Warframe is the exact same. Banshee. That is the synergy for today. Yes, you can use Ash. Yes, you can use Excalibur. By all means, go for them. But I wanted to speak about Banshee today. And the reason for this is because Banshee has an ability called Silence, which has the augment Savage Silence. This allows Silence to stagger enemies and open them up to finisher attacks, which is then increased by 300% for damage done to them. Of course, this scales with ability strength, and as you can see here, with 243% before we put in augmented, we have 828% finisher damage, which is great. For the arcanes, augmented is a good option, and then you can change out arcane concentration if you wanted to. You're more than welcome to try something different. That's up to you. You can maybe put on Arcane Fury for more melee attacks damage, sorry, not attack speed. The reason why we only have 100% range is very, very important because of how Silence works. When you cast it, there's like an invisible radius. When the enemy goes into it, they will then be stunned, and then you have that finisher icon above them. If you move away so that the enemy is no longer in it, and then you move back so that they are in it again, it will reset that. If you have too much range, you have to move away further, which is not a good idea. If you have less range, like less than 20 meters, for example, that's also not a bad idea. It just makes it easier and quicker for you to constantly add the finisher attacks and then destroy every enemy in front of you. Then, of course, we have Rifle Advance, which of course just adds to the effectiveness of this because it adds rate crits, which means we do more damage. I do have health conversion here purely because of the evolution, which requires you to have over 450 armor. I didn't feel like putting Archon shards in, but here you go. You can use this if you wanted to. One more thing I wanted to touch on was the Obex specific mod, which is Entropy Detonation. I'm going to be honest with you guys, I don't know why, but for some reason, I just don't think that you need this. I found that it wasn't that powerful. It's not worth wasting the mod slot. And I think that the weapon is more than fine with just the synergy of the finisher, radial attacks, and so on. Adding Entropy Detonation doesn't really make much of a difference from my experience. And that is pretty much the synergy. Like I said, you are more than welcome to give, Ash or Inaros or whatever other Warframe you want to give a try. You could also go a Gloom setup, which was the original one that I wanted to showcase to you guys today, which helps with slowing down the animation of Silence, which makes it a hell of a lot easier. Other than that, just, the Obex is disgusting, guys. Have fun with it. Okay. Let's move on to number 2, the Destreza, the pokey, the little stick, the little stabby. This bad boy right here has quite an interesting Incarnon form. When you reach 6x combo and you heavy attack, your heavy attacks will spawn these ghostly swords that will fly, like 5 of them in like a straight line. You gain 100% melee damage, 20% sprint speed, and 20% particle velocity, and you gain plus 10% puncture damage per heavy attack kill, up to 300% while transformed, which is pretty crazy. Oh, of course, we're going to have to go over the evolutions. So you have either weighted impetus or piercing stature. Up to you what you guys want here. I'm going to go weighted impetus because for the synergy that I'm going to showcase to you guys today, we're going all in on heavy attack, like wind up speed. So this is pretty good. You want to go for that. Then you can either go between 20% or plus 20 initial combo, overhand for a heavy attack efficiency, or Oracle reach. I went for adept reflexes for the specific synergy. Increase base status chance, increase critical damage multiplier, or increasing base critical chance based on the current or amount of status chance that you have. I've gone for absolute dominion for the base status chance, but you could also do this. To be honest with you guys, I might give this a try right now as I'm busy talking. Point being, what is the build and how does this wonderful thing work? So we're gonna have to talk about the build first before we can even look at the warframes, because it ties into all that. We're going to be using the Vulpine Mask. I'm pretty sure this is the only stance for this type of weapon. We're going to be using, believe it or not, melee assimilation. On shield break, you gain plus 150% melee damage on heavy attack, and heavy attack kills restore 30% of your maximum shields for 20 seconds. You want to use warframes that have their shields break, and then every time you heavy attack and kill an enemy, you will restore your shields with this. It's pretty good. It's one of the new melee arcanes. Alternatively, you can use whatever you damn want. We'll get into the other ones now. Here, we're going to go all in on heavy attack wind up speed, amalgam organ shatter, killing blow, and melee elementalist by itself. Rapt charge and galvanized reflex to build base combo, which allows us to get like 7x combo, galvanized steel, and condition overload. And this is the setup right here. Very comfortable, very nice, and easy to use. You could also use a vortex build, which pulls enemies in as you throw it out. Very good for grouping them, and you'll kill a bunch of enemies at once. Trust me, it is amazing. Next is a melee doherty setup, and of course this is because it's tied into the Incarnon form itself. If we have weeping wounds and we scale our puncture damage, melee doherty goes to like 13 or 12x something status, or critical damage multiplier, which is pretty insane. Allows us to do a lot more damage, but yeah, melee doherty is quite strong. Very, very good. And because we have such base or a lot of base combo, you can also spam your heavy attacks if you wanted to, which will then net a 7x combo bonus, which then scales melee doherty with weeping wounds. Great. So we have the builds out of the way. And what we're going to do here is we're going to focus purely on our heavy attack and combo. So what are the best warframes to use with this? Well, any melee based warframe works very well. Whether you're using assimilation or vortex or doherty, the usuals. You know, you can use Valkyr, you can use Kulova, you can use Gauss, you can use Varuna, you name it. But for today, we're going to be focusing on two warframes specifically. The first one is of course Kulova, because of the heavy attack wind up speed and Rafla advance proccing, allowing us to constantly spam our heavy attacks over and over and over again. It's just great. All you need to do here is use Kulova, maybe use Arcane Strike if you want to, and then just spam your first ability, which is Rafla advance, and then spam your heavy attack. Everything dies in front of you for millions of damage. It is insane. The next warframe that I want to talk about is by far my favorite, which is Gauss, because then we can use the melee assimilation quite comfortably, allowing us to get extra heavy attack damage and allowing us to regenerate our shields. Not that Gauss needs it, but the point is you can use this arcane quite comfortably with Gauss, or you can use Valkyr. If you want to use Valkyr, you can use her. There are so many options here, but this is pretty much all that I have to say about the Destreza for now. Very fun, very different, and a very good melee-based Incarnon weapon. Okay, the melee one seems to be a lot of talking. Now, number 3, the Stug. I'm going to just brush over this one because I have made a dedicated full video on this weapon. So if you have not seen it, please go ahead and watch that, because there you're going to see everything. So all I'm going to say about the Stug Incarnon is this: blobs, blobs, and more blobs, globbles and globbles. Okay, you're going to throw out blobs, which will then spread more blobs. And now it went from the worst weapon in the game, objectively worst weapon in the game, to literally like one of the craziest, most fun weapons in the game. Speak about reviving it from the depths of memeville or death of just it is beautiful. Okay, point is the, what the hell was that? My evolutions are brother, warframe, overcharge blast, increase base damage by plus 300. You heard correctly. With energy max over 700, you gain plus 50% blast range. I go over this whole thing in specific or in detail in the full video, but the increased base damage of 300 is a hell of a lot better than wanting to worry about multi-shot and the base 175 here. Projectile speed is the one for me. I like this one, or you can go rapid reinforcement for the third evolution, or the second one, whatever you want to call it. Then I personally go for elemental dominance, because then it pushes the base status chance in the Incarnon form to 40% at base before you've added anything, which allows you to get a shit ton of status chance procs. Beautiful. What the hell was that again? This game is freaking me out. Secondary Innovate with Blast, the best build. Trust me, insane clear potential. If you pair this weapon with the Nautilus and of course Cordon, you can pull enemies in and you will enjoy how strong or how powerful the synergy is with everything here. I know you're looking at the Bane mod in absolute disgust. You're more than welcome to try out another mod, or just replace it, okay? You don't have to use it. Also, you can make it budget if you want to do. Outburst is like my next favorite one personally, but there's a lot of work for it in order to get that combo for your melee. You can also use Cascadia Flare too. That is another option as well. All in all, Stug is by far one of the biggest glow ups in history in Warframe. It's beautiful. It's stunning. It's great. Moving on to weapon number 4. That is the Ballistica Incarnon. More specifically, we're going to be putting it on the Ballistica Prime. This thing is weirdly powerful. Let's just say that. The Incarnon form of this weapon changes it to like an X-shaped projectile that deals pure slash damage with increased crit multi, status chance, projectile speed, and charge time, and also turns the charging to an automatic based weapon. For the base form of this weapon, the charged shot will create a ghost of an enemy that you kill that will last for 7 seconds and fight alongside you, similar to Spectres essentially. It also has an innate multi-shot of 4, and when you use this Incarnon form, you have pretty much infinite or a much more like punch through essentially. It is incredibly powerful. Now there is a bug going around, which for those of you who have already tried it know, that the amount of Spectres that are created are affected by multi-shot. They are going to change that, and yeah, it is quite funny to say the least. It's very funny to see, but yeah, they don't do much. They're kind of just there. It's just cool to see the sheer amount of Spectres that run around when you kill a bunch of enemies. But the craziest thing about this weapon is multiplicative gun condition overload scaling with this weapon and the sheer amount of damage that you get from it. It's just beautiful and incredibly powerful. The evolutions that I went for was Prolific Perforation. On punch to hit, you get an increased critical chance. You can also do Fire Rate with Headcracker if you wanted to. You also have another option of Swift Deliverance. That is another option to Rapid Reinforcement as well, up to you, but I don't see how you would need Void's Guidance. And of course, for the last one, you have between Critical Parallel, Survivor's Edge, or Elemental Balance. I opted for Survivor's Edge because it was just the perfect balance between the two. Now, let's talk about the builds for today's video. Firstly, we have a Cascadia Flare setup. It's a basic viral heat setup, does very well and incredibly powerful. You can also make this better with Primed Heated Charge. Lethal Momentum is quite nice, and Galvanized Shot is big boy damage. I did try an Innovate setup. It's not very good. I don't recommend you guys give this a try. The next one that I found to be quite powerful is Conjunction Voltage. Believe it or not, pure electricity damage. If you can group enemies, even better. But the point is, with the amount of multi-shot and electricity damage scaling, it's pretty powerful to say the least. The next one that has surprised me the most has to be a secondary Deadhead Pistol Acuity setup. Yes, it locks the multi-shot to 4, all things considered, but you do big boy damage with this, like in the tens of 20 of millions if you can prime enemies and use this. It is quite powerful to say the least. I'd recommend you give this one a try, guys, because it's crazy. Next is Secondary Outburst as well. This is another option. Very powerful, very fun, but requires a lot more work and effort. Ignore Cryogenic, it does not work because the Incarnon form does not have puncture, only the base form. In terms of what warframes to use with the Ballistica, honestly, anything you guys want, because this thing is just an all-rounder demon now and does so much damage. It is like one of the best secondaries right now, and it's just different, it's great, and it feels great. Okay, moving on to the last Incarnon for today's video, which is the Vectis Prime, or the Vectis as a whole. The Vectis Prime, if I'm being honest with you guys, for me, it was just for Eidolon hunting, which, by the way, with the Incarnon adapter, now makes the Vectis Prime even better for Eidolon hunting. Not that many people do Eidolon hunting that much, even though I'm preparing a guide slowly. But it is definitely up there as a better version or weapon to use with Eidolon hunting now. When you get headshots with this weapon and you then switch over to the Incarnon form, you have to do it without aiming down. You have to do it while hip firing or just not aiming at all. When you fire a projectile, it will embed for 2.5 seconds, dealing cold damage with a forced cold status effect. On headshots, if you hit an enemy and you headshot them, it will then explode for a 6.7 meter radius after a 0.4 second delay, dealing pure cold, and the Incarnon form has much higher crit chance with reduced fire rates and can no longer punch through. That's quite important to understand and know. So this thing is based purely on headshots with the projectile, so it's important to get that. You get like maximum cold procs with this weapon and you do so much damage with it. It's insane. This is insane. Let's talk about the evolutions. I went for Lone Enforcer, which now gives you 150 base damage with 25% multi-shot if no enemies are within 5 meters. You could also use Inciting Incident if you wanted to, but you can't punch through with the Incarnon form, so I don't really understand why you would use that. Rapid Reinforcement, or you could use like low recoil and silent running. I think Rapid Reinforcement is the best here for that evolution. Then we have Critical Parallel, or you could have Deadhead, or you could have Wise Man's Regard. I think Critical Parallel is the best for the Vectis Incarnon, definitely by far the best. Now, for Eidolon hunting, I do have a Riven on here. This is the new build that I would go for and I'd recommend to you guys. We have the expensive Prime Chamber, we have a Riven, but we don't need this. And if anyone wants to do Eidolon hunting again, this is what I'd recommend, because you have, look at those stats. I mean, look at that. That's huge stats. That's insane. But if you're using this weapon for normal missions, I would recommend primary Deadhead, and of course using a setup like this. Again, I have a Riven on here. You don't have to use it. In fact, my Rivenless setup would be something like this, an Acuity build, and it's actually incredibly powerful to say the least. It's more based on single target, but you can do a lot of damage. You can switch this to a multi-shot version and you would also do quite a lot of damage as well. I tried Debilitate, it doesn't really work. Bulwark would be pretty good. Rux is okay. I just don't think I just think Deadhead for a sniper is the best thing that you can go for, whether it's Acuity or multi-shot, allowing you to do a bunch of damage instances, and the explosion just does big boy damage. It's very good. I do recommend that you give it a try. Because the Incarnon form has base cold, you can also add just one mod and then combine cold with whatever element, and I of course went for blast. That's a pretty good idea. In terms of what warframes you can use with the Vectis, you can use any warframe that you see fit. Clover is like one of the best as well, let's be real here. But the Vectis with that explosion does so much damage, and I'd recommend that you give this a go, because if you like snipers and you want something that's a bit stronger now, yeah, this is definitely powerful. I would go as far as to say it's like one of the best snipers now. It's up there, guys, seriously, if not the best. That's a bold claim. All right, I've done a lot of talking and I've gone over 5 weapons as fast as I possibly can. I don't want to waste you guys' time anymore. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know it's a little bit late, but I hope you guys got some new synergies and specific things that you want to give a try. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button. It goes a hell of a long way for me. Thank you so much. And as always, a huge shout out to our channel members. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for your support. It goes a long way for me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, enjoy the new weapons. Love you guys. Bye.